The X-Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Rob McConnell's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the X-Zone Radio Show or endorsed in any manner by Rob McConnell, rel-mar McConnell Media Company, the X-Zone Broadcast Network, its affiliated networks, stations, employees, or advertisers.
All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to the X Zone, everyone. I am Rob McConnell, and we're coming to you from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. If you'd like to send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com, on all social media sites, X-Zone Radio TV. And if you would like to find out the programming we have available for you 24/7, 365 on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, visit www.xzbn.net. And to find out about our broadcast schedule on the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV, visit www.simultv.com. And we're coming to you around the world tonight on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, Talkstar Radio Network, Simul Radio, and Simul TV. My guest this hour, X-Zone Nation, is Lynn Stull, and she is the author of Wonders at the Veil, Creating a Living Relationship with Your Loved One Who Has Died. In this book, Lynn shares a hands-on look at the spiritual practices she has been engaged with for over 20 years after the death of her daughter in 1977. Wonders teaches you how to penetrate the veil and forge a living connection with those that you thought had traveled beyond your reach, supporting them as they journey through the spiritual realm and even co-creating with them. Lynn is a former business executive, award-winning artist, and professionally trained eurythmist? Eurythmist, all right. And her website is lynnstull.com. First of all, Lynn, welcome to the show. And what is a eurythmist?
Well, thank you, Rob, for having me. I appreciate that. Eurythmist is a type, she's a trained, or he has been trained in eurythmy, which is an art form of movement. That's we work with the sounds of speech. And so I know that you're very connected to the stars and outer space. And so the vowel sounds are actually connected to the planets and the creative forces of the planets. And the consonants are connected to the zodiac.
Wow.
And yeah, it's pretty cool. It's when you think about that, the Greeks and the Hebrews actually knew the creative forces that stood behind sound. That helps to kind of give a picture to what eurythmy is about.
Fascinating. We'll have to talk about that more later on. But right now, I'd like to talk to you about your book, Wonders at the Veil, Creating a Living Relationship with Your Loved One Who Has Died. What led you to write your book?
Well, it actually came as an inspiration from my loved ones who have died. So I've always actually had been very private with my work with the dead.
Right.
And had been really engaged with them and always had been creating an ongoing relationship with them. And what had happened is that I got this inspiration to do a video product, so I did that. And then an inspiration came through a friend of mine. So that's one of the ways that the dead will speak to us, is through others that are around us. And this inspiration to write the book came from a friend and who said, I think you should write a book about it. And typically it will come through a couple of times after the initial message comes through. And I usually get the messages now pretty quickly as far as identifying them. And one of the ways that I know that it's a true message is that when I go back to thank the person for giving me the message,
Right.
they typically don't even recall the conversation.
Now, when you say the person, are we talking about a person on this side of the veil or the other side?
Great question. This was actually a friend who's living in the
Okay.
physical realm. Yes. Yes. And so I felt that the book, even though it exposes part of my personal and intimate relationship with those who I work with, that it was important to give people a tool, a kind of like a template of how they could create their own relationship with their loved one.
Now, could you explain to our listeners what you mean by veil work?
Definitely. So here in the physical world, we're separated really only by a thin veil from the spiritual world. And many of the dead are very close to us, meaning that they're still very connected to the physical plane. And there are others that we work with across the threshold who are more removed from the physical plane and are in the spiritual worlds. And so the veil is really coming to this almost like a curtain between the two intentionally through spiritual practices and yes, through spiritual practices. And so we really want to have an intention, a consciousness about it. And it's really to be of service and then eventually to co-create with them.
Why do you feel it is so important to cultivate a relationship with loved ones across the veil, Lynn?
Well, I really feel that now is the time in our spiritual evolution to do this. So if we look at the grander picture, just on a physical level, we've gone from the Stone Ages to the high-tech time that we're in now. Just as we are progressing on that physical level, we're also progressing on a spiritual level. And in the past, we actually had relationships with the dead. The spiritual world was pretty breathable. However, we were also almost like a one. So there was an oracle or a pharaoh, and they got the spiritual downloads, but it was very much of a collective thought process. And with the materialism, like, for example, the industrial age, we really have this separation where from the spirit world and having scientific knowledge and this strong thinking component. This is important because it provides us to be individuals, and each of us have an individual and purpose here. And one of them is to really honor the divine within ourselves and to then return freely to our Godhead, whatever that looks like for each individual. But we're now at the time where we really have to be conscious about striving for spiritual thoughts, for spiritual activity.
Lynn, what was it in our sociological advancement, and I'm using that word carefully, that we separated the oneness between the living and the dead?
Great question. I feel it's very much around, there's several times that we could point through history, but I think that most people will really recognize the materialism of the scientific and industrial revolutions that really taught the supremacy of, quote unquote, supremacy of the human mind over spirit, resulting in many of us feeling separate from the divine. In fact, it was almost that you couldn't connect the two, and that the divine was really almost in many scientific circles laughed at, might be too strong of a word, but not really thought of with really great respect.
So I can understand that, but why did we as a society let the break happen? Why did we not maintain the closeness and maintain the one between the living and the dead?
Okay, great. So what that does for us, even though it sounds harsh and like, why would we?
Yeah.
is because it really allows us to individualize.
I see.
Prior to that, we were more of a collective, I'm going to say, soul group. Similar to like how a cluster of bees, and there's a queen bee, and they all kind of move as one. That's kind of how the thought process was a long time ago in evolution. But this process of individualization really allows us to honor the uniqueness that we have, because we can actually bring back more to God by being individual. And we actually have to, on Earth is one place where we really have to work hard to spiritualize ourselves, because to lift out of gravity is not always easy.
Lynn, stand by. You and I have to take our first break. Interesting topic, Exonation, interesting lady. Lynn Stull is our special guest, and she is the author of Wonders at the Veil, Creating a Living Relationship with Your Loved One Who Has Died. Her website is www.lynnstull.com. That's LYNNSTULL.com. And Lynn and I will be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You can still get your complimentary online or download copy of the X Chronicles newspaper, 92 pages full color, and it's available for you with our compliments at www.xchroniclesnewspaper.com. I'm Rob McConnell. Duck away. Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone broadcast network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV. Plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
We live in rapidly shifting times of extreme volatility and uncertainty. Such profound change brings a unique opportunity for the evolution of consciousness. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, host of Mission Evolution Radio Show, a program that explores the latest scientific developments and deepening spiritual truths supporting human evolution. Join me on xzbn.net, where I interview leading experts in science, physics, medicine, spirituality, and more. By applying divergent viewpoints to leading-edge topics, we uncover expansive and evolutionary truth to assist you on your path to enlightenment. More information and past episodes are available at missionevolution.org.
Lynn Stull is our special guest this hour, X Zone Nation. Her website is www.lynnstull.com. And Lynn, what do you hope your readers will take away after reading Wonders at the Veil?
Well, Wonders at the Veil is the book that I wish that I would have had when I started out with this practice 20 years ago. So I was, I would say, blessed in that I had met Rudolf Steiner's work, who really was the impetus for the work that I've been doing for the last 20 years. I met his work about, the fall before my daughter had died. And he speaks a lot about how to connect with those who have died and what happens after we die and how to build this relationship, in addition to a plethora of different books on esoteric spirituality, Christianity, etc. And so I was very much attracted to his work, and as a mother whose daughter had died, I really consumed that work. So I really hope that what the reader will take away from it is that they know that they can establish their own relationship to their loved one who has died, that each the book is actually a guide for the reader. So it sets up a template and will take the person step by step, each chapter explaining a different portion of the veil work practice. And it is basically set up so they can honor their own spiritual path and or the path of their loved one who has died. Additionally, in each chapter not only has the content, but at the end of each chapter are questions that can help engage the reader with the content and can help them actually implement the content into their own spiritual practice. So I help the reader create an intention for their practice, a journal that almost becomes like a personal workbook. I teach them about communicating to their loved ones as well as receiving communication, and about the practices which really create this foundation of our relationship with the loved one. I want to be able to inspire them, inform them, and for them to know that they can do this work also.
How has your work at the Veil helped your relationship with your own daughter who's on the other side?
Oh, wow. It's been, an incredible journey. So, of course, at the beginning of this work, after Laura had died, I was really about a mother who wanted to be in service to her daughter through reading spiritual materials. So we, just to back up a little bit, oftentimes we think that when we die, that we, have instant access to spiritual materials, but we don't. It's kind of like a process. So the reincarnation process of the evolution of when we come down to earth, we learn something and then we go into the spiritual world and we process what we've just learned. And then we learn some more in the spiritual world and we come down into the earth plane again. So I knew that I could help support my daughter, and by providing her really what's called spiritual nourishment. So when we have spiritual thoughts, whether that's through reading spiritual materials or engaging in spiritual activities, that lights us up to our loved ones and provides a service of being spiritual nourishment, providing extra substance. So just like we would eat food to give us nourishment to get, certain jobs done, this provides spiritual nourishment that expands their capacities in the spiritual world.
I hope you don't take what I'm going to say next wrong, but how do we know that the veil work is basically for the person on this side who is grieving and not for the person on the other side of the veil?
Well, I think it ends up to be really for both.
Right.
And in many ways, I feel like my whole activity and engagement is so much more from a place of freedom. where I'm leaving my daughter to do her spiritual activities the way she needs to. And yet we have a relationship that is also connected in a deep way and almost a responsibility to each other in a way because of the destiny that we chose. So ask your question again so that I make sure that I answer it.
The question is the work at the veil more for the person on this side of the veil, the one who is grieving, the one who's done the loss, and not as much for the person on the other side? Because how do we know the people on the other side are actually benefiting from this?
Okay. So I'll give you a couple of examples.
Please.
So it does go both ways.
Mm-hmm.
And there's an exchange of messages. So once you have a relationship built through this spiritual foundation, what happens are some amazing things. And this might seem kind of small, but I was reading one morning and my grandmother came and she was insistent that I get up right then and there and go type my brother an email to say thank you, and that she appreciated the work that he was doing for my uncle, who had died actually several years earlier.
Mm-hmm.
So I did it, and later that day I got back an email from my brother who said, wow, thanks, Lynn. I was actually just closed out and was able to get everything done on my our uncle's grave marker, which was not beknownst to me. I didn't realize there was actually a problem with it, but apparently there had been. So there's a way of that, and that's a small message kind of thing.
Yeah.
However, the book, the eurythmy, the color work that I do, those are all creating spiritual substance. And I have a pretty good idea because that it's for their work in the spiritual world now, as well as for their next incarnation. So we can actually do this work in prepping for their next incarnation. So for example, my mother was an artist.
Mm-hmm.
She never shared her art with anybody. In fact, when I would come home from school as a young person, her artwork would be totally done. And every once in a while, we'd see a new painting on the wall. She's died a year before my daughter had been born. So she had been a part of my original work with my daughter, and which I should clarify, was a spiritual practice of reading on a daily basis around my kitchen table or on my sofa, but really at the beginning it was around my kitchen table. And it's basically a practice of reading spiritual materials to your loved ones and really visualizing them sitting there right with you, and you really giving them the materials in a specific way. And so I had an impulse at one time to do color work one day, to get up and get a hold of my daughter's crayon coloring book.
Right.
And that particular activity was so soothing to my soul. Now, yes, you could say they had provided that for my own benefit,
Mm-hmm.
but then I was led to read color lectures on the spiritual qualities of colors, to take actually a series, quite a few series of therapeutic art lessons that talk about and you learn about the spiritual nature of color. And I know that my mother was part of that process, and that provided her nourishment as well as an easing. And I, to be quite honest, I really feel that she'll be using that material when she comes back down again. The same thing so my daughter,
Mm-hmm.
She lost her physical ability to move at 1. Laura died at 8. She was really healthy, spunky, but the medical community couldn't find anything wrong with her. It is not a surprise to me that I would go to be drawn to a movement work that is very spiritually based,
Mm-hmm.
and for my daughter. So when for her next incarnation. So when you look at the spiritual economies of what happens when a person who dies early, so one thing, if they die young, there's extra spiritual forces that they have available to them to actually give to people on earth. For example, if you live to be, you have a commitment to live to 76. Your life is, is caught off at 8. Then you have a whole lifetime of life forces that you have not used. Those life forces are spiritual forces, and they can be used to help other people. That's why I was able to get really a eurythmy movement diploma, and go through what I went through and get the diploma at 54, was only because the sheer forces that my daughter gave me. However, I got continual messages during that training that she was present learning with me. And
Lynn, we're going to have to hold it here. I have to take my news break at the bottom of the hour. Exo Nation, Lynn Stull is our special guest, www.lynnstull.com, and she is the author of Wonders at the Veil, Creating a Living Relationship with Your Loved One Who Has Died. This is the X Zone. I am Rob McConnell. Lynn and I will be back after the news. Don't go away.
Broadcast studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, to the world and beyond. You're watching the X Zone Broadcast Network, www.xzbn.net.
AVS Media Den.
You have heard of the X Zone? Now watch it on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X-Zone, Sci-Fi, and Horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world, interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
Did you know that when you're on the road with limited data or Wi-Fi, you can still listen to the X Zone Radio Show with Rob McConnell, The Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, X-1, Dimension X, Space Patrol, and every minute of the X Zone Broadcast Network by calling 213-401-0080, courtesy of Audio Now. No smartphone, app, or internet needed. It saves your data plan, and it's free if you have unlimited minutes. Call 213-401-0080 to listen on any phone, anytime, anywhere. Remember 213-401-0080 for the best of the paranormal, parapsychology, and sci-fi radio programming anywhere, 24/7, 365.
Rob McConnell here, presenting an overview for Nicholas Paul Jennings, author of a fascinating book, Amen. It presents facts revealed by Egyptologists, facts that enable us to understand why Amen is the beginning of creation of God. It provides recommendations for religious leaders of the major religions to unify their beliefs and teach the Word of God. Love one another. Amen informs people how mankind conceived God. It was the Egyptians that developed the concepts of a soul, a hereafter, and Son of God. And finally, after the worship of many gods, they conceived the belief in one universal God, the maker of all there is. For more information, visit www.futureofgodamen.com. That's www.futureofgodamen.com.
Exonation, Lynn Stull is my special guest this hour. Her website is lynnstull.com. Lynn, what happens to a person who has died, is on the other side, who does not believe in reincarnation? What happens to the family who does not believe in reincarnation? Christians do not believe in reincarnation, so what happens to the Christians?
Great question. So I'm nodding my head because I have thought about this. So there's evidence to believe that those that reject things strongly, when they cross the threshold, that they actually have a strong desire for what it was that they resisted so strongly. And what my stance is that for example, my daughter picked me. I firmly believe that she picked me as her mother, and that I chose my mother and father. So my mother and father didn't believe in reincarnation. However, there's a shift that occurs, and you don't even have to believe in reincarnation. In fact, many different spiritual streams talk about prayers to the dead, of being in service to the dead. My goodness, Coco, the movie, which was, I think I could say was a blockbuster in the end of last year, was all about remembering and honoring the dead, and the Day of the Dead with the Hispanic population. So you don't have to believe in reincarnation to be in service, to actually even to co-create. Because anyone who has a connection to the earth is going to be interested in those on the earth, and they will want to work with them in love if we meet them in love. I firmly believe that.
Would you say that veil work is based on the person's belief and not scientific evidence?
Well, I believe there will be scientific evidence.
But you said there will be, but as to date, there is none.
Not that I know of.
Okay. So why? So I understand. I understand the grief that you went through, and my heart goes to you for that. It truly does. But people listening around the world today are maybe saying, "Well, wait a minute. This doesn't make sense. In my religious belief, reincarnation does not exist. There is no proof of the afterlife. What is all this about?" So how do we explain what you're talking about? Because you believe, you practice this.
Right. I guess because I've had so many different experiences. If you have faith that there's a connection that is made,
right,
then what happens is when you do the work, then you start to receive the messages. And from that perspective, it's pretty inconclusive to me. I mean, I'm getting them all the time. I mean, I literally was running in a political campaign this past spring for an unexpected position in my city. Didn't get it, but I know I was spirit-led to run in it. So it's just one of those things. And I don't think I'm here to sell anybody on the idea. I'm just here to share that my life has been a total shift since my engagement with my loved ones. And I know countless others
Yes.
have also experienced this same type of results. I'm not, some like clairvoyant, person. I'm just doing the work and you get the results. It's like a muscle when you exercise. And it's again, I'm not here to sell it, but if it's something that resonates with you, then I really encourage you to try it.
So whatever makes you feel better, do it.
It's not really from what makes you feel better, because for me, it's a responsibility now.
How do you figure that?
Well, because, all right. So did I read the quote by Albert Stefan? Because I was kind of thinking about it earlier today, and I can't remember if I've actually read it to you or not, or just did it in my mind. So I'll read it, and you can stop me if I read. So this quote, Albert Stefan's a poet, and he's been dead for a while, but he said, "Human freedom may choose whether or not to seek and maintain a conscious relationship with the dead. Nothing, either from within or from without, compels it. It's a deed of purest love." So it's really, this activity for me has become a responsibility not only as a mother, but as a spiritual partner with my loved ones who have died. And so that responsibility is just like any kind of commitment, whether it's in marriage or friendship or work commitment, that's my commitment on a spiritual level.
Is it possible that your commitment may be holding back the person on the other side, and as well as yourself on this side, from progressing without having the connection with the other side?
I love this question. I'm so glad you asked it. So this question is so interesting to me, because this whole process of reading and being spiritually connected is so much about freedom and allowing freedom to occur. So even though I have placed responsibility on myself, I know that at any time I have the free choice to say, it's enough at this point. In fact, when I went to eurythmy school, I told others that were coming in wanting me to work with them across the threshold that I needed to put them on hold until I got done with this project, with getting my diploma in that. So there's always freedom. Now, what this whole thing about holding back our loved ones who have died, from that, this is nothing about coming from a place of I'm going to say over grief. So I have normal grief. I'm a mother. I would prefer that my daughter be here living versus me talking across the threshold. But it's not about a grief that's wanting and is holding on from an egotistical point of view. It's from a place where you really are providing spiritual nourishment and being in service that way. And I do the work even if I hear from them or not. Okay, so that's really critical component of this, is that I do it no matter what, because I know no matter what that they'll receive a spiritual substance from it. And they can be doing anything that they want. And I love them so much that it's okay, whether I hear from them or not. There is a component that if you are connected to the earth, that you will always have an interest in what's going on in the earth in a way that's free. So there's a certain time period after you die that you do a purification time period. And there's also this, I talked about, there's some people that are more attached around the physical plane. So those people you really need to help disengage from the earth plane and move forward more into the spiritual world, because that's the normal process. We want our loved ones to go into the spiritual world, to progress through the spiritual world. This nourishment actually goes with them freely and actually helps them to gain more capacities in the spiritual world.
But how do you know this? How do you know that what you're saying is actually helping instead of hindering? How do we know this for sure?
Well, I don't think I would be getting the messages that I'm getting to write this book, to go to the eurythmy school, to go. I mean, seriously, these are things that would be the furthest away from what I would ever think about doing. So all of the things that I've been led to, really, if it was, I would not even, it wouldn't have crossed my radar.
If your daughter had not died.
If my daughter had not died, if I had not done this practice, because not only am I receiving information from her, but I'm also receiving information from people that I know that have died across the threshold. I mean, I've been connected. I had one time when I was reading a person who I knew that committed suicide at work. I knew her from a work situation,
right.
And she came to me strongly wanting me to include her in the spiritual reading. I mean, without doubt, I knew that. And then I reached out to two other people that I knew, and I didn't really connect with them. I didn't really feel their presence. But you do feel when people need something from you, and I feel it's in a way, when I say need, it's not in a way that you feel burdened. It's a spiritual, when I say responsibility, I'm grateful for it.
All right, we're going to hold it there because I have to take my final break for this hour. Exonation, Lynn Stull is our guest this hour. She's the author of Wonders at the Veil, Creating a Living Relationship with Your Loved One Who Has Died. Her website, www.lynnstull.com. And we'll be back on the other side of this break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone from our broadcast center in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada. You're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network, Talkstar Radio Network, Simul Radio, iHeartRadio, and you're watching us on Simul TV. Don't go away.
It on Simul TV, plus 500 video games, live TV channels, free video on demand, worldwide, and more. Does this sound like tomorrow's television? Well, it is, but you can have it today, right now. It is Simul TV. Simul TV offers what the others only wish they could provide. 15 exclusive channels like X Zone, sci-fi, and horror. We are worldwide. No other provider offers that. 500 built-in video games. No need to have an extra expensive system. We have them included. Free video on demand. Live streaming events from around the world. Interactive online network, and much more. Tomorrow's TV today. Simul TV. Sound too good to be true? Well, it's not. You can have Simul TV today. Sign up at simultv.com. Do it today.
The new nonfiction book, Razor of Madness, is similar to cult movies like Clockwork Orange, Dragon's Tattoo, or The Other Side of Hell. Wayne Morin Jr. and Thomas Lee Howe will expose widespread and systematic deficiencies in this thought-provoking tell-all novel. Mind control rages among scholars in law schools. Human rights are ignored while thought reform and mental manipulation are accepted practices used as behavior modification. Dr. Louis Jolyon West comes to mind. Media and public scrutiny shows that United States mental hospitals are in fact destructive murder industries. Razor of Madness expose novel details this epidemic through an in-depth professional and personal investigation. For decades there has been a revolving door policy that still releases killers and pedophiles back into society. The maestro of mind control continues to haunt America to this very day. Razor of Madness is available in paperback or as a downloadable ebook at Amazon.com.
The concept of a new age has been around since the late 19th century, yet much of its original meaning has been lost. What exactly is the new age? Is it a religion, a collection of obscure esoteric practices, a series of doomsday predictions, or an astrological event? The New Age Chronicles is a unique, complementary publication bringing reason and grounded information to separate fact from fiction. chock full of valuable information to support you as we make the monumental shift into the new era. You won't want to miss a single innovative issue. The New Age Chronicles newspaper is coming soon to www.newagechronicles.com.
Welcome back, everyone. If you would like to watch the X-Zone TV show on the X-Zone TV channel on Simul TV, just visit their website at www.simultv.com. With over 130 prime channels, videos on demand, and if you get the 2-box set delivered to you, I believe there's a special going on right now for $99. You can it actually includes, I should say, over 500 video games. Plus, you'll be able to chat, social network with others watching the very same movie and TV programs that you're watching. That's at www.simultv.com. Lynn Stull is our guest, www.lynnstull.com. She's the author of Wonders at the Veil, Creating a Living Relationship with Your Loved One Who Has Died. Lynn, is your book a replacement for grief counseling?
Well, well, for me it was, this practice was. I've always been private, as I had mentioned earlier in our conversation,
yes,
and about my Laura, and I really was never one that went to a counselor. I never went to a grief group.
Mm-hmm.
So I really, I know that this work transformed myself,
right,
and the sorrow that I felt,
mm-hmm,
was eventually transformed into really a lot of strength and courage.
Right. I know that different people deal with grief in many different ways. Grief is just not when you lose a loved one, but grief also is included when you move from one place to another, when you change jobs, when you lose a job, as well as when you lose a loved one. How do we know that this technique will work for everyone? And is it advisable not to seek professional help when you're in such a state of grief?
Well, I can't speak for anybody else,
mm-hmm,
except for myself.
Right.
I can only speak for myself, and it was a very difficult time, and yet
imagine,
I wouldn't have chose a different path of healing,
mm-hmm,
where again now it's from a place more from when I do have grief. Just things that you would normally want to share with an adult child, or any, your child as those different development days to, everything. Grief will always be with you. But the spiritual practice of veil work really helps you to be proactive, and also to really have it come out of yourself, a certain amount of strength, as well as, you get that you just receive grace from the spiritual world that for me was so, it's so indescribable. And it's a grace that you receive from doing this work.
I've lost members of my family, my aunts, my uncles, my cousins. I've gone to the funerals, said my goodbyes, grieved for a while, and then life goes on. I can't the fact that you would retain the connection with the departed is hard for me to fathom. Why would people do this? Why wouldn't they want to get on with their lives?
Ooh, so you said get on with your life.
That's
See,
right. The way that I look at it, the
yeah,
person who has passed is gone.
right.
Life is for the living. So why would you want to develop this sort of relationship instead of going on with your own life and keeping the memory of the dearly departed in your heart?
You, by all means, that is one path that a person can follow.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And I honor and respect that.
Right.
My life is so much richer, so much more alive, so much more, I'm more engaged with life. I have done more good things through my work
Yes.
with those who have died than I could ever begin to even think I could do.
Is it possible that veil work is a placebo effect?
Well, there's too many, circumstances that have happened, and I'm not just the only one.
Sure.
There are many people that are doing this work and have received,
Messages?
yeah, messages, confirmations, directives.
But are these real, or are these coincidences, synchronicities? And it has nothing to do with the connection in a spiritual manner.
One could believe that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I mean, I just feel that the mystery and the of the universe is the spiritual capacities are amazing to me. And so the more that I have done this work, the more that I know that it's true. It's pretty overwhelming to me.
Well, let me ask you this. What qualities, qualifications, or skills does somebody need to do veil work?
Well, if I can do it, pretty much anybody can do it, because I'm just a normal person. I'm not, I'm not clairvoyant. I'm not psychic. But what I am is that I am consistent in my practice.
Yeah.
I have a reverence for the spiritual world. I create the habit of wanting, of not only like wanting it, but allowing it to happen, to be open to it, to receive it. You can even just practice being observed by your loved ones, and that can start a practice. So there are many things that you can do
Yes.
to engage, just like you do to nurture a relationship here on earth, right?
Wow.
A good friend, you typically need to cultivate it. The more you cultivate it, the more rewarding it is.
Let me ask you something here. You say you're not a clairvoyant, you're not a psychic, and yet I've been doing this show for going on 29 years, and everything that you have described to me fits perfectly into the category of clairvoyant, psychic, and medium. So what is the difference?
Maybe because I just never give myself that title.
Why
I mean,
not?
really, it just never dawns on me it doesn't dawn on me to do that. I'm just a normal person.
Obviously, you're not a normal person if you communicate with the spirit world.
Okay. All right. Well, you know what? You are probably right, because it seems so normal to me now that I'm like, isn't everybody doing this? Yeah,
That's why I'm having a hard time to understand the difference between veil work and what so many people are doing as psychics, clairvoyants, and medium. Is this a new angle to the paranormal phenomenon?
Well, what I would say is that it's actually a lot of work. So there's the service component is different, and that you're actually reading spiritual material, which today's world it's difficult for people to do, and being concentrated in that, you're learning skills of how to communicate with your loved one. How are they going to communicate with me, and where are they when they're communicating that? So there's differentiating things that will give you cues.
Why wouldn't the loved one on the other side want you to go on with your life?
It is going on. It's more than going on with my life. This is so interesting to me because I am, again, it is like my life is so much going more on in so many ways that I can't even conceive that it would have been without this work. I've gotten a new diploma. I know how to do artwork now. I've written a book. I've done video things. Well, I did do video things before, so that's not something new, but the topic is. I'm led different places in a conscious way. So, many of us get these cues if we have a spiritual path at all. A spiritual when we think spiritual thoughts or do spiritual activities or have spiritual feelings, we light up to our loved ones, okay? And they can find us more easily. And so many of us are receiving many of these messages, but we're just kind of going on with our life thinking that they're, nothing, and that it's just coming from us.
Well, Lynn, I hate to do this, but we've run out of time for tonight. I do want to thank you so much for joining us. And X-Zone Nation, if you would like more information about our guest this hour, Lynn Stull, her website is www.lynnstull.com. I don't know, X-Zone Nation, you can call it work, veil work, wonders at the veil. All my years of experience here at the helm of the X-Zone and being your leader of the X-Zone Nation, I call it clairvoyance, psychic phenomena, and mediumship. I'll be back on the other side of this break as we continue here in the X-Zone from our broadcast center and studios in Hamilton, Ontario, Canada, on the Talkstar Radio Network, X-Zone Broadcast Network, iHeartRadio, Simul TV, and Simul Radio. Don't go away.
Modern Esoteric, Beyond Our Senses by Brad Olson, consummates the lifeology story about where humanity originates. It is the lost continents, the primitive wisdom, the mythos of creation, and the rethinking of ancient history as we are taught in academia. There is much more to the story than what we have been told. As this is the first book in the Esoteric series, Modern Esoteric starts at the beginning of time and accelerates up to this modern age. Future Esoteric is book 2 in the series and takes a forward-looking position ahead of today with an open and honest examination of the ET issue and various unexplained phenomena. To discover the writings of author Brad Olson, visit www.bradolson.com. That's www.bradolson.com. Are you or is someone you know struggling with addictions, depression, anxiety, relationships, low self-esteem, lack of confidence, grief, success, and prosperity? Do you know that your subconscious belief plays a big role in the outcome of your hard work? We can help you permanently change the beliefs that may be the reason for your struggles and failures. We care about getting you the return on your investment and the results you are looking for. We can help you be free of the limitations of your past and in realizing your highest potential. We work with people by phone and Skype. For more information, visit us at www.ritasoman.com. That's www.ritasoman.com. Do you think you have energy problems in your home? Do you feel better when you're away than when you're home? Joey Korn is a global leader in the world of dowsing who specializes in personal energy clearing and space clearing. He can help you create an ideal energy environment in your home no matter where you live in the world. Learn about his remote spiritual house cleaning services and much more at www.dowsers.com. You can get Joey's book, Dowsing, A Path to Enlightenment, as well as other dowsing books and tools, Kabbalah books, and Walter Russell books. Joey's work is really amazing. Go to dowsers.com right now. That's DOWSERS.com, or call 1-877-DOWSING. That's 1-877-369-7464.